guys, we're starting notes today, 3.1. It's integers and absolute value. This is our new unit. I actually just recorded the lesson and it got deleted on me. I don't have an extra copy to go over this, so I'm just going to kind of walk you through what I already wrote down. So let's go ahead and you write what I write. Our learning goal for today is to identify and graph integers and to find absolute value. So let's go ahead and discuss some vocabulary. So first we have integer. An integer is any number from a set. So for instance, -4, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just remember you can pause the video, go back. If I'm going too fast, just make sure you do this at your pace. When we have integers, we actually graph them by plotting on a number line. So let's go ahead and draw a number line. So you're just drawing a line with arrows on both sides. Always start with 0 in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then -1, -2, -3, -4, and -5. You need to remember your negative integers are always going to be less than 0. So they go to the left of your number line. Positive integers are always greater than 0. So they go to the right of your number line. So what we're going to do now is just identify numbers by telling whether or not they should be written as a positive or a negative based on the situation. So number 1 says 5 degrees below normal. Well, since it says below, I'm going to put -5 because negative indicates below. Number 2, a deposit. First of all, let's discuss what deposit means. A deposit means when you go to the bank, you're putting money into your bank account. So your bank account is getting larger. So when you deposit, you gain money. You put in the bank, you gain the money. Hey, Mr. Breck, get off my screen. There we go. So when you deposit money, it's a positive to your account. So +25. The opposite would be a withdrawal. A withdrawal is when you take money out of the account. When you take money out of the account, you're losing the money. So that becomes a -15. And then number 4 is a gain of 12 would be a +12. Whenever you write your numbers, if it's positive, you don't have to keep including the sign. But for today, to get you used to positives and negatives, I'm having you write the plus. So we're going to go ahead and graph the sets that were given. So what I want you to do is next to the 3 numbers here, you're just going to draw a number line. So let's go ahead and draw 3 of those. I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit. There we go. 0 goes in the middle. When you go to label your number lines, always look at the higher number. So 6 is the higher value. I'm going to count by 2s, 2, 4, 6. And then on the other side, the left of 0 would be your negatives. -2, -4, -6. Whenever you make a number line, think of the 0 as like a fold in your paper. So if I were to fold my paper on the 0, so if I were to fold it up to make it match, the 2 would be on top of this -2, the 4 would be on top of the -4, and the 6 would be on top of the -6. When we graph, all we do is just put a dot on what we're graphing. So I want to graph a positive 4. I put a dot on 4. I want to graph negative 6. I put a dot on negative 6. 0 goes 0. Let's set up the next one. 0 in the middle. 8's the highest, so I'm going to count by 2's again just to save room. 2, 4, 6, 8, and then negative 2, negative 4, negative 6, negative 8. I am plotting negative 2, a positive 8, and then a negative 7, which when I skip count, remember 7 would be in between negative 6 and negative 8. Let's go ahead and do the next one. 0 in the middle. Looks like we need to go up to 10. I'm going to skip count again. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And negative 2, negative 4, negative 6, negative 8, negative 10. I am plotting a negative 4, a positive 10, negative 3, which will be in between negative 2 and negative 4, and then 7, which would be in between 6 and 8. And that is how we graph. Let's go ahead and move to the top of the notes. It tells us to mark a point at 5 and negative 5. Then it wants us to describe what we notice to be the difference between the two. So I noticed that they are opposites of each other. Positive 5, negative 5. I owe $5, I gain $5. I also noticed that they are the same distance from 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when something is the same distance from 0, we call that absolute value. Absolute value of a number is the distance away from 0 on a number line. So the absolute value of negative 5, these lines here are called absolute value bars. When we look at the absolute value of negative 5, all we're doing is counting how many units it is from 0. So again, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. So the absolute value of negative 5 is 5 units from 0. So the answer would just simply be positive 5. So we're going to determine the absolute value for each. Absolute value of negative 8 is 8 spaces from 0. So if I were here on the number line at the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So my answer is 8. Absolute value of negative 1 is 1 spot from 0. Absolute value of 3 is 3 spots from 0. Absolute value of negative 4.5 is positive 4.5. And the absolute value of 6 is 6. Sorry, my iPad keeps falling asleep. Okay, I'm just plotting all the numbers we got. So A, we got 8. So I'm plotting an A over the 8. For B, we got 1. So I'm putting a dot at 1 and putting a B. For C, we got 3. So dot and C. For D, we got 4.5. So 4.5 falls in between 4 and 5. Put a dot, I put a D. And then we got E was 6. So that's how we can show absolute value and graph it. The next table wants us to show absolute value versus opposites. So when we look at this, if the number is negative 6, its absolute value is 6. It's 6 units from 0. Its opposite is positive 6. 18 would have an absolute value of 18, but its opposite is negative 18. 34 would have an absolute value of 34, but its opposite is negative 34. Negative 67 would have an absolute value of positive 67, and its opposite would also be positive 67. And the last one, negative 128, would have absolute value of 128, but its opposite would be positive 128. So it says we want to know which columns can be added together. Well, we can add together the number with its opposite, and it will always equal 0. So if I were to say I owed you $6, I pay you back $6, I now owe you nothing. Or on the number line, if you're at negative 6 and you are adding 6, you would go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm at 0. Again, if I have $18, I spend $18, I have no dollars. So on and so forth. So what that tells me about absolute value and its opposites is when I add them together, I get 0. The next two are two questions I want you to add in. So write number 1, negative absolute value of 10. You need to remember and write this down. Absolute value bars act like parentheses, so we do them first. So the absolute value of 10 is 10. But since you have this negative on the outside, it stays on the outside. So the answer to this problem is negative 10. Over here, absolute value bars act like parentheses, so do them first. The absolute value of negative 3 is 3. The absolute value of 4 is 4. So 3 plus 4 equals 7. So that's our notes from here. You have homework on the back, so you can go ahead and get started in class. Whatever you don't finish is due tomorrow. Ms. Youssef will have you trade and grade after the due now tomorrow, and then give her your score. You can then make homework corrections once you visit the module again on your iPad in class. So good luck and have a great rest of your day.